There are too many ISAs, too many rules, and too many nuances. And because of that, they're confusing and massively underused. What's the proof of this? Well, only around 15% of adults have a stocks and shares ISA. And out of £2 trillion roughly in UK household savings, only around 400 billion or 20% is currently inside cash ISAs. So we've taken something that is incredibly powerful and should be quite simple and straightforward and turned it into something that is confusing and underutilized. In my opinion, the ISA system does not need to be this messy. So here are 10 ways I'd fix it. I've also just been to the gym, so I'm feeling a bit motivated. And on the way back, I got a cinnamon roll, or cinnamon bun, which are literally like crack. I somehow only recently discovered them. They must be terrible for you, but they're unreal. And I've just nailed one of those and had a coffee. So I'm pretty buzzed and I'm looking forward to giving you my suggestions on how to improve ISAs. I've got the 10 points on my phone. We're going to go through them one by one. And of course, you all probably already know that ISAs are one of the best ways for us in the UK to save and invest. And any profit that any ISA spits out, gains, dividends, interest, is completely tax-free. And that's why they're so powerful. The first suggestion, get rid of the innovative finance ISA. I know what you're thinking. What the F even is an innovative finance ISA? And that's the point. It's pointless. Less than 0.5% of all ISAs are innovative finance ISAs. It's essentially for peer-to-peer lending and any gains interest is tax-free. But I just think this is a pointless ISA. There's clearly not been very much uptake in it. So just scrap it and clear up the ISAs from 4 adult ISAs currently to 3 instead. On those 3 ISAs, point number 2, change the names. The names, in my opinion, are just confusing and they don't make much sense. And that is why people don't, maybe I'm over exaggerating that, but let me give you my suggestion and then we'll talk about it. Change the names from cash ISA to savings ISA, from stocks and shares ISA to investing ISA, and from lifetime ISA to home buying ISA. I just think then it is blatantly obvious what each ISA is used for, and based on the goal, you then know which ISA is best for you. I think a lot of people automatically think of just cash ISAs by default when they think of ISAs, so immediately just chuck money into a cash ISA, earning a few percent, whereas they might actually want to save for a house or invest instead, but they're just not aware of any other ISAs. So I think by having these simpler names, they make it much clearer what they're used for, and also make all platforms and providers call them by these names. Because another sort of side point is, with a stocks and shares ISA, some investment platforms call it a stocks ISA. Some do call it an investing ISA. Some call it a stocks and shares ISA. Some call it a tax-free ISA. Just have standardized names and simpler names. And I honestly think that suggestion will just go a long way. And if I'm going to campaign for any, probably for that one, because I just think it will make the world of difference in actually understanding what each ISA is used for, and then people can allocate money based on their goals. Point number 3 is to raise the total ISA allowance to £25,000. It's been 20k, which in fairness is very generous, especially compared to other countries, but it's been at 20k since 2017. Which of course is another sort of stealth tax or whatever, hasn't been increased essentially. Not really a stealth tax actually, that's the wrong term, but a lot of allowances have either been cut, like the capital gains tax allowance or the dividend allowance, or frozen, like the nil band allowance. Even though they're not necessarily freezes, the fact the 20k ISA allowance hasn't increased since 2017, I would like to see it bumped up to £25,000. This one probably isn't essential because it is still a very generous allowance. I've never maxed it out. Most people never will max it out. But I think raising the allowance immediately creates a headline. And once again, more people then think of ISAs and want to put money into ISAs. So I think raise the allowance to 25k. It's a nice round number, and then keep increasing it by 5k or so, I don't know, every few years, to keep incentivizing people and reminding people the power of ISAs. Number 4, on that total allowance point, I believe the total allowance should be the same across all ISAs. I think, and this is where the cash ISA now comes into it, because that allowance is being cut for under 65s from April 2027. You can now put 12K in a cash ISA, 4K in a lifetime ISA, 20K in a stocks and shares ISA. I think, again, it's just unnecessarily complicated, and it could be so simple. Just have one flat allowance and you can put money into whatever ISA you want. Now, I know this might raise an issue, you might be thinking, for the lifetime ISA slash, we're going to call it the home buying ISA for the rest of this video, but it may raise an issue there. The government can still cap the tax, or not tax free, but the government bonus that can still be capped at 1K per tax year if they want to, like it currently is. But I think that actually having a flat allowance just makes it, once again, simpler to understand. It's just more intuitive, and I think that will get more people to actually use them. So one larger allowance, and of that one flat allowance across all the 3 types of ISAs: savings, investing, home buying. Number 5, and now number 5 and 6, we're going to specifically talk about the home buying ISA. And as I mentioned, they can cap the government bonus at 1K per tax year if they want to. But I think that government bonus, whatever it is, however it works, should just be paid out once at the end when it comes to buying the house. Now, lifetime ISAs are supposedly getting reformed, and there's going to be changes from 2028 onwards, and apparently this is one of the suggestions. So this might come in anyway, but I think, once again, just by having the government bonus, however it operates, paid out once at the end, it's just easier to understand, and people then know more what they're working towards, and it's just a simpler system. Point 6, also on the home buying ISA, the property valuation threshold should be completely removed. The ISA allowance hasn't increased since 2017. The lifetime ISA was also introduced in 2017. The 4K, which we can currently allocate to a lifetime ISA, has never increased, and that's nearly 10 years ago. But more importantly, you have to buy a house under the £450,000 in value, essentially. And now house prices have increased massively since then. So a lot of people in many parts of the country can no longer use a lifetime ISA, which is the best way to save for a home. And I just think that even if you're not affected by this, imagine you start using a lifetime ISA today, and it'll probably take you minimum 5 years to save for a house, maybe more, 10 years. You come to then complete on a house, but all of a sudden property prices in your area are now more than that threshold, so you can't use a lifetime ISA. And you want to then, yeah, and then you're sort of screwed, really, because you can't really do much with it, because the best way to save for a home, even if you've been saving for a home, property prices are out of your control and they've now increased above that threshold, make the lifetime ISA, home buying ISA, unusable. So I think just remove that property valuation threshold completely. And then once again, everyone will start using home buying ISAs to save for their first home, and they're not going to be stressed or worried that they can't then use it because property values have spiked up for whatever reason. Point number 7, and I sort of alluded to this maybe a little bit, but I don't think there should be any penalty to withdraw from any ISA. I think the fact that, I guess their main 2 pros in my mind: number 1, all the profit from any ISA is tax-free, and number 2, flexibility. Unlike pensions, which are locked up, I think ISAs should remain flexible. So this only actually currently applies to lifetime ISAs, but I think with the home buying ISA and all types of ISAs, there should be no penalty to withdraw any money. And once again, I just think the less nuance, the lower the barriers to entry, the more people are actually going to be keen to use them. Point number 8, and now I'm of course biased, but I'm once again keen on this one: introduce investing ISA bonuses. This would directly benefit me, of course, because I invest, but I think the government ultimately struggle to get people investing. And I think a lot of people say, you know, this should be taught in schools. Take a step back. This isn't really taught in schools, and this isn't really taught at home, which is fair enough. I agree with those. The problem is, though, you know, if you're like 14, 15, 16, you're probably not going to be interested in this. You just want to play football, go on the Xbox, go on your bike. You know, you're probably not massively going to be keen on this. Of course, if you are keen, that's great. Even in your early 20s, mid 20s, the younger you start investing, the better. But I think, so essentially, whatever the government is trying to do to incentivize investing isn't really working. So I think by giving actual monetary incentives, we'll get much more people actually looking into investing in ISAs and using them. So this really could work in any way, but my ideas were, if you open and invest in ISA, you get £100. So of course, on some investing ISAs already, you get a free share, which is a great way to start investing. But imagine you sign up and you get £100 instantly. That's going to be a great feeling. And I think there should be some sort of system where for every additional year you have invested, or you stay invested, or keep the investing ISA open, you get an extra £100 or something like that to keep people consistent. I was sort of thinking that there could be some sort of milestones where if you hit 10K or 50K or 100K, you get a bonus. But I think that is a bit regressive because, of course, wealthier people are then going to get more of the free money, if that makes sense. So I think it should be done more based on time rather than value. And maybe even like the earlier you open one up, the bigger bonus you get. If you're less than 30, you get £200 because that can then, and there can be some calculation the government can show you, just on this £200 alone, compounded at the average real return, is going to give you, couple of grand in, X amount of years. Imagine if you kept it open and you kept getting £100 bonus per year from us, and you put in £1,000 a year. You can obviously show loads of examples, but I think maybe based on age, which once again is a bit ageist though. So I'm trying to think the fairest way to do this, and there's always going to be some pushback. I don't think value's the right way, and maybe age isn't the right way either. So maybe just done on time. You open it, get 100 quid, and every subsequent year you get 100 quid, regardless of the amount or the age. And then that is going to get people to actually directly incentivize them to invest. Well, let me know what you think of that one. I've also been working on a video of some ways we can actually get the UK investing, and I think that's a good one. Or maybe some sort of like tax credit or extra money for, getting access to your workplace pension, opening a stocks and shares ISA or invest in ISA. But yeah, I think that's an interesting topic because clearly the current government want to get people investing, or they seemingly do more than previous governments. Well, they've directly said it anyway, but it's not really working, I don't think. But yeah, I'll leave that one there. Number 9, and I actually think this is probably another really important one, and it's a simple one, is just to standardize the ISA transfer process, both between ISAs, make it frictionless, and between providers, make it frictionless. Just make it standardized and very simple. And then what you're then going to get is people will just quite quickly and easily switch between ISAs when they want based on their goals, and also switch between providers when they want, if one provider increases their fees or something like that. Because I think currently, once again, there's a lot of paper-based forms. It can take months, or not months maybe, but like, sort of 1 to 2 months. So I guess months. That's the definition of months, isn't it? But I think just standardizing that process to make it easier and quicker. Imagine you could just fill in an online form that took 2 minutes, and then your money would be moved within 1 week from a savings ISA to an investing ISA, or from, I don't know, Vanguard to Trading 212. I once again just think that would go a long way in making that ISA process better and just simpler. Number 10, my last suggestion. If you're still here, thank you for sticking with me. This has only been rumored, but there was a rumor that they were going to cap a lot ISAs at 100K. So you couldn't, I don't know how it would actually work, but you couldn't contribute more than 100K to ISAs, or you couldn't get to a value of more than 100K. I think those were contributions, which is a lot of money, but equally, if you're going to be using ISAs for 30, 40 years, and if you're working over that time as well, even on an average salary, you'll be quite surprised how quickly you would get to that cap. I think capping this is a bad idea. There's already been caps and thresholds and limits introduced in pensions. Other allowances, as we've mentioned, have been frozen and cut. I think just do not cap ISAs. We need to incentivize more people to use all types of ISAs. So put in a 100K cap, even a million cap, just leave it capless. And I think once again, the less rules, the less nuance, the more accessible they are, and the more people will actually use them. Okay, they are my 10 ideas. They're all great, I know. Thank you for making it this far. I, of course, don't work for the government, first of all, as you can clearly see. But saying that, if an ISA minister role becomes available, I'll be happy to chuck my name in the ring. But yeah, that's going to wrap up this video. Just really me sharing my ideas. Let me know what you think of all these ideas in the comments down below. And importantly, if you do have any more ideas, once again, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Just to re-emphasize again, ISAs really are ultimately the best. It's hard to say. Pensions really are the best way to invest for the long term because of the tax efficiencies. But then when it comes to actually accessing them, the tax rules can be complicated. You can, the lump sum's got a limit now. There's income tax involved after the personal allowance. Different workplace pensions have different perks. There's DB pensions, DC pensions. It can get quite complicated. ISAs are probably, from a simpler point of view, the best way to save and invest because there's no tax friction in the future. Everything's tax-free, it's great. But I think the current system is slightly just too complicated, too nuanced. As I mentioned, the names are confusing, the innovative finance ISA is pointless. So there's some real low-hanging fruit here that can be implemented to make the system better. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.